What's going on, everyone? So the Los Angeles Lakers, right, still could probably use an upgrade at the center position. They obviously land Deandre Ayton as their primary starter. But one of the issues is that the Lakers could be in the same boat next season. They signed him to a 2-year, $16.6 million contract, but he has a player option for year 2, right? So there is the chance that, no, hey, things work out enough and somebody offers him some big money. Lakers supposedly want to keep the flexibility for 2027, or he just, it doesn't work out or whatever. There's a million different potentials where Deandre Ayton ends up leaving and the Lakers kind of need that center. So, there's been talks about the Lakers looking at like Yves Missi and some of these other centers that I think makes sense, right? Especially a guy like Yves Missi, where he's a guy that can kind of step into that starting role, right? You could have him as a backup. He's 21. And then if Deandre Ayton ends up departing, well, then you can step him right into that role. If Deandre Ayton ends up staying around, he's still young enough to where you can kind of continue to develop him off the bench. And then, a couple years from now, boom, then you're making that transition. Maybe even as Deandre Ayton ages, maybe you're kind of making that switch to where maybe he's the backup role. But a guy that obviously has been linked to the Lakers for some time now is Nic Claxton, right? And I wonder if the Lakers, because again, according to Brett Siegel, Lakers have touched base with several teams about their centers. Nic Claxton is one of them, even supposedly after the Deandre Ayton acquisition, right? Because they just, they want to bolster their starting unit. And so I wonder if getting Nic Claxton may end up being kind of one of the best routes, right? Because like the question with Nic Claxton as the starter is he's just like 215 pounds soaking wet. Like that's not great. When you're talking about, just needing to be physical and posing. But he might be the best defensive option for the Lakers. Right? Even more, and I'm big on Walker Kessler. Walker Kessler is one of the best defensive centers in all of basketball, arguably the best. But he's not as switchable and defending in space and all that stuff as a Nic Claxton, right? Nic Claxton can genuinely defend 1 through 5. And one of the things that makes him so enticing is that kind of switchability, right? So would it be worth it for the Lakers? And of course, I want to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions, just kind of talking through some stuff here. But would it be worth it for the Lakers to maybe go and acquire Nic Claxton? One, Nic Claxton kind of gives you that, like I said, that switchability defensive look with, behind a Deandre Ayton, still gives you that lob threat for Luka Doncic, so still kind of that Luka type of center. If Ayton ends up leaving, well, then you can easily have Nic Claxton step into that starting role, and you're fine, and then just go get a backup, a more bigger physical backup, right? Like things like that, I think could be very beneficial for the Lakers. The problem, it's not a major problem just because DeAndre Ayton's so cheap, so you can kind of argue and justify it, but also what you'd have to trade and send out. Problem with Nic Claxton is just the money, right? He's making $25 million this year, $23 million the next, and then just under $21 million in 2027, 2028, right? So one, it kind of messes with the preserved cap space in 2027. His contract does decline each year, which is good, especially if the Lakers need to stay under an apron, if they work out a sign and trade or whatever, and they need to stay under the first apron or the second apron, right? They'll be able to do that because, that $2 million can be the difference. But I also look at Nic Claxton as he might be one of the few centers that you may be able to, even if not right now, closer to the trade deadline even, where you might be able to just get him for just swapping players, because we know that the Brooklyn Nets value expiring contracts because they want clean slate. They want to kind of just hit that reset button and wait to see if any stars can come, or they can team up stars like they did with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, kind of grow and develop their young core, right? So, and they ended up, just bringing in a Michael Porter Jr. and all that stuff. So it would be in their best interest, especially with the way Michael Porter Jr. is being paid, to kind of get off of Nic Claxton in his contract, right? So there is an argument to be made. Like if you can just get him for essentially matching salaries, because again, you'd be clearing basically 2 years minimum off his books. You're talking, 43, almost 44, or actually over $44 million that you'd be clearing off for Brooklyn's books over the next 2 years. Again, that alone has value, right? And he's a guy that's 26 years old, so he still lines up with the age. You'd have him bare minimum for another, like I said, 2 more years. So after this year, so really 3 years. So you essentially have that insurance. You have he would be a better backup option for the Lakers than they could probably get anywhere else, right? So now you got that quality backup, you got that quality starter. Nic Claxton can always start in a pinch if Deandre Ayton gets the night off or something, and it gives you that insurance if he ends up departing, if he ends up leaving, right? And you're talking about Nic Claxton being 6'11". Again, the problem is he's just 215 pounds, but because he's so light is probably what makes him so, agile and being able to defend. So just, again, it gives you kind of these different looks for the Lakers. And then you still have Jackson Hayes as like your third big and stuff. But like with DeAndre Ayton, if he gets the night off or he needs the night off, or, because how many games is he going to play, right? His health resume has not been super great. So it'd be nice to kind of have a guy in a Nic Claxton that could start in a pinch, be a rotation guy, be a starting level guy, right? Be kind of, probably would end up being one of the better, if not the best bench guys. Came off the bench for some. He started most of the games last year, so out of 70 games, he started at 62. But he did at times come off the bench behind guys, right? And so, I mean, obviously, I don't know if Nic Claxton would like that. Like, is that something that he would embrace and be willing to take on? Maybe because it's the Lakers and you're contending for a championship. Right? It's kind of hard when you're on a team like Brooklyn. You got paid to be one of the guys in Brooklyn, and it's like, now I'm not, and now what? Now you want me to come off the bench and we're a terrible team and all that stuff, right? It's different when you're coming off the bench for a contending team and you're still getting the bag and you're still getting everything else. It's another thing when you're coming off the bench for a bad team and it's like, I'm better than all the centers that we currently have. Like, why would I come off the bench, right? So again, like, if that's something that the Lakers could pull off, I would consider it. I would look into it. He played 27 minutes per game, so not like a little more than your usual bench player, right? Usually the bench guy's playing 20 to maybe 25 minutes on any given night, right? On average, right? So I look at Nic Claxton and I think that there is the potential to kind of maybe, again, I wouldn't, if you have to give up assets, I wouldn't do it. Right? If you had to give up a first or connect or anything like that, then nah, I'm good. Hard pass, right? Good luck to you. Right? But if you could do it essentially for just like player swaps, right? Rui and Gabe Vincent or whatever, and end up landing Nic Claxton, I wouldn't hate it. Right? Because again, like, he is probably one of, if not the best defensive centers for the type of defensive schemes that the Lakers like to run. Right? Just kind of that switch everything 1 through 5. He is one of the best switch everything. He can defend in space, defend at the rim, defend the pick and roll. The guy is as versatile as it gets defensively. And he have offensive production. He can rebound the basketball. Like, I think he could be a double-double guy off the bench and give you that quality production. I think he'd be a really good acquisition for the Lakers. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.